In many agricultural areas, farmers have begun regularly spotting foxes near livestock facilities. The foxes move close to chicken coops, duck houses, or areas where small animals are kept, especially in the early morning and late afternoon. Some individuals stand not far from the animal enclosures, observing their surroundings before approaching areas where food is available. When they notice that the area is empty of people, they quickly move closer to look for an opportunity to hunt. Some foxes travel along fences and disappear from sight after only a few minutes. Their repeated presence around the farm has made farmers pay increasing attention to their activity and begin looking for ways to protect their livestock. When they find a suitable opportunity, foxes begin moving deeper into livestock areas to hunt. They may approach chickens, ducks, or small animals that are active in the yard. Some scenes show foxes chasing poultry, quickly grabbing their prey and dragging it away from areas where many animals are gathered. After finding a convenient food source, many individuals continue returning to the farm on later occasions. Their hunting activity forces farmers to strengthen protection around their poultry, especially in areas where foxes appear frequently. This situation has led local residents to begin implementing fox control measures around livestock facilities. Foxes are not only active at night but have also been recorded appearing in the early morning and late afternoon. These are periods when livestock areas often have fewer people around, giving the animals easier opportunities to approach the enclosures. Some individuals move alone around the farm, while others are spotted in different areas on the same day. At times, a fox appears only briefly and quickly leaves after noticing people. Changes in their activity times make it difficult for residents to predict exactly when they will appear. Farmers have therefore begun observing the surrounding areas more carefully in order to choose an appropriate control method.
Dig down here a little bit.
After identifying the areas where foxes frequently appear, farmers begin setting up a trapping system around the farm. Locations are selected near fences, pathways, and areas where foxes commonly approach in search of food. Bait is placed to attract them toward the traps. Instead of concentrating all the equipment in one location, farmers distribute it across several different positions to expand the control area. After the traps are installed, these locations are checked regularly to detect when a trap has been activated. The control effort is maintained to limit foxes from continuing to enter livestock areas and attack poultry.
Usually on here. Alrighty, folks. Just leave that stick. Lot.
After setting the traps, farmers regularly return to inspect the prepared locations. During one inspection, they discover that a fox has been caught in a trap and is still at the trapping site. The farmers approach to check the animal's condition and then carry out the necessary handling procedures in accordance with local regulations. After the animal has been handled, the trap is inspected again to ensure that no further problems have occurred. Similar cases continue to be recorded at other locations around the livestock area. Regular inspections allow farmers to quickly identify trapped foxes while also reducing the amount of time they remain confined in the traps. After some time of control efforts, fox activity around the farm decreases significantly. However, the animals have not disappeared completely. Some individuals continue to appear occasionally in areas where convenient food sources are available. The environment around the farm still provides many opportunities for feeding, from poultry to natural food sources. In addition, foxes living in nearby areas may move into the area and continue their activity around residential zones. Therefore, although their numbers and frequency of appearance are lower than before, farmers may still encounter foxes in the area. Their activity remains an issue that requires regular monitoring.
See? Move! Okay. That's for sure.
Many people assume that foxes are merely occasional visitors to farms in search of food. In reality, once they discover a place with a reliable food source, they may return night after night, quietly observing and memorizing even the smallest changes in the area. It is this patience that makes foxes one of the most difficult predators for chicken, duck, and poultry farms to deal with. They do not need to attack constantly. As long as they find a safe way in, they can cause significant losses over an extended period before the farmer even realizes what is happening. That is why tracking their movements and setting traps at the right time is always more effective than reacting in haste. The first signs usually appear in the most subtle ways. A few small paw prints pressed into soft ground after the rain, flattened grass forming a narrow path along the fence, or a handful of scattered chicken feathers near the edge of the yard can all serve as warning signs. During the day, everything appears peaceful as usual, but once darkness falls, an infrared trail camera begins capturing footage of a fox quietly emerging from the edge of the woods. Rather than heading straight toward the coop, it repeatedly stops to observe, listen, and check the wind direction. Only when it senses nothing unusual does it move forward a few more steps before disappearing back into the darkness. After nearly a week of monitoring, the control team realized that the fox rarely changed its travel route. Every night, It followed a shallow drainage ditch, crossed a patch of low grass, and approached the poultry enclosure from behind, where the lighting was weakest. On windy or rainy nights, it appeared later than usual, yet it still followed the same familiar route. This revealed that the animal had developed a highly consistent routine and completely trusted that path. That predictable pattern became the foundation for preparing the trapping strategy. Instead of placing the trap right beside the chicken coop, the control team selected a location along the narrow trail the fox regularly used. A steel foothold trap was carefully set into the soft ground, then concealed beneath a thin layer of soil and dry leaves that perfectly matched the surrounding area. Every step was carried out with great care to minimize any trace of human presence. Even blades of grass that had been disturbed were returned almost exactly to their original positions, so the landscape would appear completely natural. For an animal with senses as sharp as a fox's, even the slightest irregularity could be enough to make it change direction and stay away for days.
Caving this trap in, give it a little, but it's super.
The following nights became a true test of patience. The camera recorded the fox approaching the trap location several times, only to stop suddenly. It lowered its head, repeatedly sniffed the ground, then backed away a few steps before circling around and returning once again. On some nights, it simply stood motionless for several minutes, its ears held upright as it listened to every sound around it. No one rushed to move the trap or add extra bait, because any unnecessary disturbance could have rendered all the previous days of careful monitoring worthless. Then, early one morning, while a blanket of mist still covered the fields, the camera sent an alert showing prolonged movement at the trap site. After days of cautious investigation, the fox had finally stepped onto its familiar route and been caught in the trap. This success was not the result of luck, but of careful observation, a thorough understanding of the fox's movement patterns, and choosing the right moment to act. Afterwards, the farm owner reinforced the fencing, sealed the gaps beneath the wire mesh, and cleared away leftover food around the livestock area to reduce the chances of attracting other foxes. The story demonstrates that when it comes to protecting livestock, the trap is only one part of the solution. Far more important is understanding the animal's natural behavior and having the patience to follow the subtle signs that nature leaves behind.
Okay.
Over the past few weeks, many farm owners have repeatedly spotted foxes around their livestock areas. They often move along fences, cross open fields, or quietly approach poultry coops in the early morning and late afternoon. At first, residents only saw a few animals from time to time and assumed it was normal wildlife activity. However, the number of sightings quickly began to rise. Around the same time, many families started noticing that chickens, ducks, and other small animals were disappearing without any clear signs. Some people even saw foxes carrying prey across the fields before vanishing into the edge of the woods. These repeated incidents made the community realize this was no longer an isolated problem. Not long afterward, the foxes began expanding their range beyond the livestock areas. They were seen near sheds, gardens, feed storage areas, and roads running through nearby neighborhoods. Some even came close to homes at night in search of food scraps or pet food. Their quiet movements allowed them to reach places that often went unnoticed. The growing number of sightings suggested that the foxes had learned where reliable food sources were located and were becoming more comfortable around human activity. This increased the risk of repeated visits, especially on farms with weak fencing or poultry coops located close to wooded areas.
I think we've got some roosters.
In response, farm owners began surveying the entire area to identify the routes the foxes used most often. They checked gaps beneath fences, narrow trails through tall grass, areas near water sources, and paths connecting the woods to open farmland. Once the likely travel routes were identified, a trapping system was set up in several locations. Some traps were placed near poultry coops, while others were positioned along fences and at the edges of fields. Bait was placed inside to encourage the foxes to approach, but every location had to be chosen carefully to avoid making them suspicious. During the first few days, not every trap produced results. Some foxes came close, stopped to sniff the area, and then turned away. Animals that had already traveled around the farm several times appeared highly sensitive to even small changes in their surroundings. Because of this, farmers had to check the cameras regularly, study the direction of travel, and adjust the trap locations. Some traps were moved to narrower paths where the foxes had to pass close to the fence. Others were carefully concealed with dry grass, branches, and materials already found in the area. The process required patience, because even an unfamiliar scent or an object placed unnaturally could keep a fox away for several days. After a period of monitoring and adjustment, the traps began to work more effectively. The first foxes were caught along routes leading directly toward the poultry coops. Whenever a trap was triggered, farmers quickly arrived to inspect the situation, handle it, and reset the equipment. Regular checks helped reduce the amount of time an animal remained in the trap and ensured the system was always ready to operate. Camera footage also showed that not every fox used the same path. Some traveled along the edges of the fields, while others circled behind sheds or approached from the rear of the livestock area. As a result, the control zone was gradually expanded. After several weeks of continued control efforts, fox activity around the farms dropped significantly. Even so, the animals did not disappear completely because the surrounding area still offered plenty of woodland, open grass, and natural food sources. New foxes could still move in from nearby areas and quickly locate the farms when conditions were favorable. For that reason, camera monitoring, fence inspections, and traps placed at key locations remained in use. For livestock owners, controlling fox activity was not a task that could be completed in just a few days, but a long-term process requiring regular observation, adjustment, and cooperation to protect animals from future intrusions. Before the sun slipped behind the low hills, the farm had returned to its familiar sense of calm. The chickens wandered peacefully around the yard in search of food, while each enclosure was carefully inspected before nightfall. However, the farm owner knew that the most dangerous part of the day was only just beginning. For several consecutive weeks, a number of chickens had disappeared without leaving behind many clues. There were no loud disturbances, no damaged fences, only a few scattered feathers on the ground and faint, small footprints leading toward the edge of the woods. These signs suggested that a fox had repeatedly approached the area and was gradually becoming familiar with the terrain around the farm. Unlike many predators that appear only by chance, foxes often spend several nights observing an area before making a serious attempt to approach their target. Each time it appeared, the fox moved slowly, stopping frequently to listen and sniff the air. The slightest unfamiliar scent or subtle change along its route was enough to make it turn back and disappear into the darkness. This remarkable caution meant that dealing with a fox could never rely on hasty reactions. To protect a flock effectively, it was essential to understand exactly how the animal selected its travel route and when it chose to move. The wildlife control team began installing several infrared trail cameras along the edge of the woodland. After a few nights, the recordings revealed that the fox almost always appeared at the same time each night. It followed a narrow dirt path running parallel to the fence, crossed through a patch of low brush, and then circled behind the poultry enclosure. Even when the weather changed, its route remained virtually the same. On windy nights, the fox simply arrived a little later, yet it still approached from the darkest area with the least human activity. This consistency showed that it had developed complete confidence in its familiar route. After nearly 10 days of monitoring, the control team decided not to place the trap beside the poultry enclosure. Instead, they selected a location along the path the fox regularly traveled. A foothold trap was carefully positioned on a patch of soft ground where the animal's footprints had repeatedly appeared in the camera footage. Once it was firmly secured, the entire area was covered with a thin layer of soil, dry leaves, and bits of grass that blended perfectly with the surrounding landscape. Every footprint, displaced twig, and patch of freshly disturbed earth was carefully concealed to minimize any sign of human activity. Given the fox's exceptional awareness, even the smallest unnatural detail could cause it to alter its course. The following nights became a true test of patience for those monitoring the area. The cameras repeatedly captured the fox approaching to within a short distance of the trap before suddenly stopping. It lowered its head to sniff every patch of ground, stepped backward a few paces, circled to one side, and then returned to inspect the area once again. On some nights, it stood perfectly still for several minutes, its ears constantly turning toward every sound coming from the farm. The control team left everything exactly as it was, adding no bait and making no adjustments to the trap's position. They understood that the more they interfered, the greater the chance of leaving behind human scent or other traces, whereas a stable, undisturbed environment was what would gradually cause the fox to lower its guard. One morning, while a blanket of mist still covered the fields, the cameras detected prolonged movement at the trap site. After days of careful observation and cautious investigation, the fox had finally stepped onto the exact spot along its familiar route. The outcome was not the result of luck, but the reward for meticulous monitoring, careful analysis of the animal's movement patterns, and choosing the right moment to act. After resolving the situation, the farm owner continued reinforcing the fencing, sealing every gap beneath the wire mesh, trimming back dense vegetation around the poultry enclosure, and removing all leftover feed to reduce the chances of attracting other foxes. This story demonstrates that protecting livestock depends not only on a single trap, but also on understanding animal behavior, maintaining patient observation, and creating a secure farming environment that leaves predators with as few opportunities as possible to approach.
Recently, farmers have repeatedly spotted foxes appearing around livestock farms. They often move near poultry pens, cross-cultivated fields, or roam along farm fences. At first, these sightings were relatively infrequent and did not cause much concern. However, encounters gradually became more common, and many farming households repeatedly reported poultry disappearing or being attacked. As these incidents continued to occur, local residents realized that the threat was becoming increasingly serious. To protect their animals and reduce losses, they began searching for effective methods to control the foxes. Foxes did not limit their activities to farmland but gradually expanded into nearby residential areas. Some individuals were seen in backyards, storage sheds, or close to places where animal feed was kept. Others traveled along narrow roads between homes before returning to agricultural areas to search for food. After repeatedly finding easy food sources, they continued returning to the same familiar locations with increasing frequency. Their presence so close to people's homes caused growing concern because of repeated attacks. In some cases, foxes even attacked people, making residents even more frightened. After surveying the area, the farmers began installing trap systems at multiple locations. The traps were placed along routes frequently used by foxes, near fences, trails, and forest edges. Bait was carefully prepared to increase the chances of attracting them into the traps. The trapping effort extended beyond poultry enclosures into surrounding agricultural areas to improve overall effectiveness. After installation, the farmers regularly inspected every trap, replaced bait whenever necessary, and adjusted locations according to changes in fox movement, allowing the control program to become increasingly effective. After some time, the trap system began producing clear results. The first traps were triggered, and many foxes were gradually captured at the locations that had been prepared in advance. Most of them were caught along the routes leading toward livestock facilities or near trails close to the forest. After each successful capture, the farmers quickly checked the trap, handled the captured fox, and reset the trap to continue controlling other foxes still active in the area. The traps were inspected on a regular schedule to ensure the system remained operational while the control area was expanded into nearby locations where foxes frequently appeared. As more traps were installed throughout the area, the remaining foxes gradually changed their feeding behavior to adapt. They became more cautious when approaching places where traps had previously been encountered but still continued returning to farms and residential areas. Some individuals selected different travel routes or appeared during hours when fewer people were present in order to search for food. Whenever they discovered poultry or livestock feed that was not properly protected, they quickly entered the area and left again within a short period. This forced the farmers to continue adjusting their control methods to match the foxes' changing behavior. Over time, the number of foxes appearing around livestock farms declined significantly compared with before. However, they did not disappear completely from the area. The main reason was that the farms still provided abundant food sources and favorable conditions for feeding. In addition, some foxes from neighboring areas continued moving in to replace those that had been captured. As a result, residents still occasionally observed foxes around farms and nearby communities, although sightings became much less frequent. This demonstrated that long-term fox control would remain necessary to reduce livestock losses and maintain stable farming operations. Not every threat arrives with loud noises or obvious warning signs around the farm. Sometimes it begins with just a few chickens disappearing mysteriously overnight. At first, the owner assumed it was a minor problem caused by failing to secure the coop properly. But more birds kept vanishing, even though the coop remained intact. The fence showed no damage and there were almost no tracks nearby. He soon realized he was dealing with an unusually cautious predator. To identify the culprit, the farmer installed several infrared cameras around the chicken coop and along the trails near the property. After only a few nights, the recorded footage finally provided a clear answer. Out of the darkness, A red fox slowly appeared and approached the coop with almost completely silent steps. It repeatedly stopped to watch, sniff the air, and carefully listen to its surroundings. Only after making sure the entire area was completely quiet did the fox continue toward the flock. From the footage, the farmer realized the fox was not moving at random. It had memorized the terrain, fence, coop, and best places to hide. Each night, it followed the familiar route, waiting for the right moment before approaching its prey. Foxes are not the strongest or fastest predators, but they make up for it with patience, sharp observation, and memory. Once they discover a reliable food source, they often return repeatedly while leaving little evidence behind. Because the losses occurred gradually, many people would not notice the problem until their flock had been significantly reduced. During that time, the fox became familiar with the farm, learned the owner's routine, and identified the safest approaches. After several days of monitoring, the owner determined when the fox appeared and which route it used nightly. Rather than setting traps everywhere, he focused on the spot the animal crossed most often. A steel trap was placed along that route, then carefully covered with soil, dry grass, and fallen leaves so it blended into the surroundings. Bait was positioned to attract the animal without raising suspicion. A trap's effectiveness does not depend on quantity, but on location, timing, and proper placement. One trap positioned according to the animal's behavior can be far more effective than several set in a hurry. However, after reviewing the footage for several more nights, the farmer noticed the fox had changed its route. It may have detected something unusual or become more cautious after repeated visits. Instead of following the original plan, he monitored nearby trails and discovered the animal had begun using a different path. The trap was moved to an intersection the fox crossed regularly. Fresh bait was added in a small amount to remain appealing without overpowering the area's natural scent. Adapting to the fox's changing behavior allowed the control plan to remain effective even when its movement pattern changed. That is exactly why the camera system was so important. It not only identified the animal approaching the farm, but also revealed the time, direction, and reaction to every adjustment. After several nights, the camera stopped recording any fox activity around the coop. The owner continued checking other areas to make sure no easy access points remained. The farm was also cleaned up to remove anything that might attract wildlife. Leftover feed was stored securely, gaps around the coop were reinforced, and bushes near the fence were cleared away. As access became more difficult and the food source disappeared, the area was no longer as attractive as before. Combining cameras, trap adjustments, and stronger housing provided much better protection for the flock. Even after one fox has been captured, the work of protecting the farm is not over. An empty territory can quickly be taken over by another animal. Protecting livestock is therefore not just about dealing with a single threat. It requires long-term observation and preparation. By combining experience with an understanding of animal behavior, farmers can greatly reduce future losses. If you found this story useful, leave a comment and tell us how you would protect your flock.
There.
Right beside the farm, the fox calmly fed on the prey it had just caught, as though the area had already become a familiar part of its hunting territory. After leaving, it quietly followed the bushes and narrow paths hidden from view to avoid detection. The fox did not move at random, but almost always used the same familiar routes. After appearing many times, it seemed to have memorized the entire area around the poultry enclosure, knowing exactly when it was safe to approach and which path offered the fastest escape. Because of this, the farmer decided to track its movements and begin a trapping operation that would continue for several days. Early one morning, the area around the livestock enclosure was found in complete disorder. The chicken coop door had been pushed out of place. Chickens lay scattered across the ground, and feathers were spread throughout the area, showing that the fox had entered the farm repeatedly. The farmers quickly reviewed the surveillance cameras installed around the property. After examining several recordings, they discovered that the fox almost always followed the same route. It used paths hidden from view and approached the farm only when the surroundings were completely quiet. This discovery allowed them to identify its regular path and begin planning how to protect the poultry enclosure. Setting the trap required extreme care. The foothold trap was concealed beneath a thin layer of soil and dry leaves. Once the work was finished, every branch, patch of grass, and layer of leaves around the site was carefully restored to its original position, minimizing any unusual signs. Strong-smelling bait was then placed nearby to guide the fox toward the exact spot. The farmers understood that foxes possess a highly sensitive sense of smell and remain alert to even the smallest changes in familiar surroundings. A strange scent, a human footprint, or a single disturbed detail could make the animal turn away immediately, avoid the area, and begin using a different route. While waiting to see whether the first trap would work, the farmer prepared 2 additional traps in separate locations. One was placed beside the fence, where the fox often traveled while approaching the poultry area. The other was positioned farther along the trail leading toward the forest, where the animal had appeared on several consecutive nights. Both locations were carefully disguised with soil, grass, and dry leaves so that the surroundings would remain as natural as possible. Once everything was ready, the farmers continued waiting patiently, hoping the fox would change its route, pass through one of the new locations, and step into one of the prepared traps. After many days of patient waiting, the fox finally appeared. It did not rush toward the bait, but repeatedly stopped to observe the surroundings, lower its head to smell the ground, and inspect every possible sign of disturbance. Although it continued to keep a safe distance, the strong scent of the bait gradually drew it deeper into the prepared area. After hesitating for some time, the fox began feeding and slowly lowered its guard. When it moved into the closest position, the trap was immediately triggered, bringing an end to the farmer's long and tense period of tracking and waiting. After days of observation and patient waiting, the farmers finally caught the foxes that had repeatedly entered the property and caused damage. As soon as they received signals from the trapping locations, they traveled to each site in turn to inspect the area and collect the animals that had been caught. The result brought the multi-day operation to an end and removed the immediate threat to the poultry enclosure. From that point forward, the chicken coop was no longer disturbed. The birds could move around and feed normally, and the farmer felt more at ease as the property temporarily returned to a stable and secure condition.
Here are some of the survivors.
By a fox. 9.
The story of trapping the foxes shows that protecting a farm depends not only on the traps themselves, but also on human observation and patience. To deal with an intelligent animal such as a fox, farmers must understand how it moves, when it searches for food, and which natural habits guide its behavior. In the continuing struggle between people and wild predators, knowledge of animal behavior remains one of the most important factors in protecting livestock and maintaining stability throughout the farm.
Across the vast fields of the countryside, farmers must always remain alert for a small but highly unpredictable predator. It may not possess the strength of a bear or the crop-destroying power of a wild hog, but a single careless night can be enough for several chickens to disappear. That predator is the red fox, an animal known for its intelligence, patience, and remarkable ability to adapt. It all began when surveillance cameras repeatedly captured the shadowy figure of a fox appearing near the poultry enclosure. Rather than rushing toward its target, the fox spent several nights quietly studying the farm. It moved along the fence line, paused in dark corners, checked the direction of the wind, and memorized the activity around it. Each time it returned, it seemed to understand more about the location of the lights, the entrances, and the times when people left the area. The farmers quickly reinforced the fencing, sealed every opening, and installed motion-activated lights. These measures worked for several days, but the fox soon found a way to adapt. It changed the time of its visits, chose darker areas, and began approaching from a different direction. Before long, fresh tracks appeared again in the soft ground behind the chicken coop. Instead of reacting too quickly, the farmers began watching more carefully. Additional cameras were placed along the field edges, tree lines, and narrow trails surrounding the farm. After several days of observation, a clear movement pattern gradually emerged. The fox almost always followed the same route. It avoided open ground and stayed close to tall grass, where it could remain hidden. Each time it appeared, it stepped through nearly the exact same places, as though following a path it had memorized long ago. This repeated behavior helped the farmers identify the best location for a trap. They continued monitoring the trail for several more nights to make sure the animal would not suddenly change its route. The device was concealed beneath a thin layer of soil, while dry leaves and grass were carefully rearranged to preserve the area's natural appearance. However, setting the trap was only one part of the plan. It was positioned directly along the trail the fox used most often, where the highest concentration of tracks had been found. The mechanism was carefully hidden beneath a thin layer of soil, then covered with dry leaves and natural grass so that nothing appeared unusual. Cameras were also used to monitor the location and confirm that the fox continued following its familiar route. Foxes have an extremely sensitive sense of smell and can detect even the smallest changes in their surroundings. An unfamiliar scent, disturbed soil, or a human footprint could be enough to make the animal change direction. For that reason, every step was carried out carefully to minimize any alteration to the landscape. Over the following days, the cameras continued recording the fox as it approached the prepared location, but it always stopped to observe before quietly moving away. After many days of waiting, the decisive moment finally arrived. Early one foggy morning, the camera sent an unusual alert. Fresh tracks led directly toward the route that had been monitored for weeks. After repeated inspections and adjustments, the plan finally produced results. Success came not only from the trap itself, but more importantly from understanding how the fox selected its path and responded to changes in its surroundings.
Be back in a minute.
This story shows that protecting a farm is not as simple as setting a trap and waiting. Every footprint, every appearance on camera, and every disturbed section of fencing provides an important piece of information. When those details are connected, the animal's behavior gradually becomes clearer. The farmer's patience and careful observation allowed them to turn small clues into an effective strategy. The fox may not be the largest or strongest animal, but its caution, intelligence, and adaptability make it a highly unpredictable opponent. Sometimes the most effective confrontation is not based on strength, but on a battle of wits between human experience and the survival instincts of nature.